Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another iteration of the Simulationist podcast. This is the 144th iteration of the show, recorded on the 7th of June, 2015. My name is Josh Trelevin, and with me on the other microphone,
Ryan Kirkby,
There's
co-host
Ryan.
extraordinaire, and math know-it-all. 144, we're at one gross of episodes.
One gross, that's 12 12s.
Yes.
That's, hey, I'm happy with that. It's pretty cool.
Well, anytime you get like a squared number is pretty cool, but I mean, like, they have a number just for a word to describe 144 or something. It's one gross.
It's a gross. Yes, we've done a gross iterations of the show.
We've done a
Or we
gross
will have.
number of iterations over the years.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
That said, even if you think our stuff is awful, like manure, that's still the best area to grow ideas. Boom! I just blew your mind.
Okay, I'll take it.
Manure makes for the best, growth. You get the best things growing
That's
from
what
it.
we've been putting out all this time is just mental manure. So, yeah, join us
In the
for
best
another,
possible way, I
another
suppose,
90
yeah.
minutes of mental manure coming up now.
Or, well, maybe we should consider ourselves the seeds that grow well.
Yeah.
We just got to put in enough BS to make it worthwhile.
All right. How are you doing, by the way, right?
I'm doing pretty good. A little tired, but pretty good.
You're doing good? Yeah, it's hot out.
Yeah,
June
summer's
weather.
finally here, and it's like, ugh. You know it's finally summer when at the middle of the night you catch yourself, it's like, I'm not cold, I'm actually a little warm.
Yeah.
You got to double check to say, okay, how many layers of clothing? Oh, wow, I'm just, okay. Not extra layers of clothes. So, yeah, I guess it's summer now. Whee!
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I mean, I would actually prefer if we got more rain here in Victoria.
Okay.
The last couple summers I've noticed are very dry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have dry summers here.
Mind you, it's not like, like I haven't grown up around dry summers. But when I moved to the coast, I kind of hoped for a little bit more rain, just to enjoy that brooding atmosphere when it's a good time to just throw the curtains open, hear the rain come down, and do some writing or some reading or something.
Yeah, Victoria's a little bit weird that way because it doesn't get as much rain as, like, Vancouver, for example.
We are on the dry side
Yeah.
of the... Oh, I mean, that's why it was so dry in my hometown. I mean, we were on the dry side of the mountains.
Yeah.
Mind you, that doesn't seem to be helping Alberta out any. They seem to be getting enough water coming off of the Rocky Mountains to have a monsoon season these days.
Yeah.
At least they're not having huge... Well, maybe if they were a better dam system to keep the water flowing at a regular rate, they wouldn't have to worry about high rivers, and then they wouldn't have to worry so much about, like, the summer drought conditions.
Yeah, more dams in Alberta. They might do.
Well, I mean, I'm never big on the prospect of just tossing up a bunch of dams every which way. I mean, you got to make sure you're putting them in the right spots. You don't get too much silt accumulation.
Mm-hmm. What
What sort of animal and ecological, changes are going to happen from putting a dam there?
Mm-hmm.
That said, the first Egyptian dynasty fell because they weren't able to regulate their water well enough, and people started starving because, either we're flooded or, it's baked ground. We don't have enough to properly water and irrigate.
True.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that is it seems to elude most people throughout all of human civilization, but feeding the common base is your entire, first step of society. You don't get very far if everybody doesn't have enough to eat.
Yeah, well, you get used to, because it comes in, 20 year, sometimes 50 year or 100 year cycles, and you think, oh, we can grow and we can expand all this because we have, a surplus of food, whatever. We can expand, and then, sort of the larger cycle kicks in again, and so there's a series of dry years, and all that expansion you did, like having more kids and stuff, well, now
you got more mouths to feed and less stuff to do it with.
Yeah.
But you think, once you started having history, it's like something you can do, not just like, yes, there were years before us. I think somebody knows what happened in them, but, honestly, before I started paying attention, I don't really remember anything. Mm-hmm. Once you start looking at history as a historical record, you'd imagine it's like, hey, turns out if you can't feed everybody properly, your society crumbles. We should probably get the word out on that one. That seems like a very good thing.
Yeah, and I think we've only in the last century, basically, in the 20th century, people actually kind of realized that on like a global level. Because like when people start a project, like I'm going to start, build a city, a pyramid or something.
Woo!
They only do as much research as they kind of need to, get it done. And I don't think they necessarily listen to, those crazy prophets or, whoever it is that's keeping the record.
They're naysaying. I'm trying to keep a positive attitude, so I'm just going to block them out. And they're all there, oh my goodness, everyone's going to starve. Listen, I'm trying to build something that's going to last millennia here.
Yeah, and I think we have a similar attitude that crops up occasionally, like in basically to get political, or I don't know, but the major infrastructure projects like your pipelines and your things like that, you have a company that gets very focused on, we have to build this, we have to build this pipeline, and we'll do everything it takes to, and we'll bribe the government. Well, I'm not saying they're bribing governments.
We will donate heavily to various political parties, and hopefully they shall be able to see things as we do. But if they don't, well, I guess that's just how it happens. But if they want to keep up the political contributions, they better start thinking our way.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, you still got batteries? Okay. And, I mean, that's not to say I'm against those sort of massive infrastructure projects, because I think they're really cool, and I think pipelines are kind of awesome. Like, it's like, imagine, like, you're driving a pipe, like, over, thousands of kilometers.
Well, here's the thing, is that they're going, like, we're going to put a pipeline, like 5 feet under the earth, like, across the mountain range. And that sounds cool. I won't deny it. The Romans said, we need water to Rome. We're putting a hole through the mountain. Mm-hmm. Do you know how much ecological damage you do by putting a hole through a mountain? None. There is very little ecology inside the solid rock of a mountain.
I imagine there's a little bit of ecological damage because you have to move that material somewhere, and you probably have to use water to move it, so you'll end up with tailing ponds on either end, maybe, something like that.
That's the people who built the channel. I mean, it's a lot easier to go through a bunch of stone with regards to ecological, like importance and concerns, than it is to even lay like a bunch of stuff down on the bottom of a seabed. Even the seabed still has like creatures in it, microbial though they might be.
I'm actually kind of curious. You can probably look this up. I could probably find it on Wikipedia or whatever. But I'm wondering what they did with all of that material that they dug out to make the channel. Like, I wonder where that went. It's probably like used somewhere. Probably built.
I wouldn't be surprised if they used it for landfill areas.
Yeah, they might have like added terrain somewhere. Or,
like, hey, like this bog is being completely worthless and is being like a host of mosquitoes for all of human history. Let's put a bunch of rocks on top of that and get rid of that.
Yeah.
That is a problem in and of itself too, but at least, hey, let's put a bunch of condos now.
Because I remember I think in like Asia, and I think it's Tokyo, they have an airport that's basically built on an artificial island.
Check out the amount of land added to Hong Kong. They took like a bunch of like random shoreline, and it's just basically like watching like a gamer add lines. Okay, we'll just fill this out here and make this here and do that there. And next thing you know, you've got like huge amounts of added shoreline. But that's not uncommon. I mean, like even, I guess it's almost 100 years ago, 80 years ago or so, yeah. 80, 90, they were building artificial islands off of like the Miami area.
Oh yeah.
Not all of them stood the test of time. They were doing some nice artistic things, like I'm making a perfectly round island, and because they didn't put up a nice proper like breaker buffer, erosion has just kind of now it's like, oh boy, congratulations, you've got a crescent moon island here.
Well, have you ever seen those, like, you might see it on Google Earth, Dubai?
Oh, Dubai's got some amazing stuff there. They really know how to do it. They blast, they put the proper rocks in, they make sure when the water moves, it can't move too high or do too much erosion.
Yeah.
They are really brought in all the professionals to make something that should not just last, look good, but it will do it in a manner that you won't have to keep fixing it up. It's very low maintenance compared to what a lot of other places have done.
I wonder, though, especially with Dubai, like, because they're building, like, those weird islands, I wonder if they're worried about basically ocean level rising and like washing.
Well,
away.
Right now they're a little bit more concerned with how the economy is doing. Can we afford to keep doing
the price of oil and all that,
But otherwise, I assume that their plan is just like we'll put in a series of like locks and channels to make sure the water level stays where we want it to.
I guess they could. Well,
it's not new technology and not that difficult. They can make it all happen.
If my mental geography is correct, that city is on the Persian Gulf, is that right?
Yeah, but I mean, let's work it this way: is like if any city's going to wind up putting like a giant lock system around the Gulf itself, for wherever it concerns them, it's probably going to be Dubai that manages to get it done. I mean, Dubai. I mean, that's practically the motto for Dubai. Dubai, we get it done.
I guess so. Sure. And I was going to say, Victoria, like the city where we are recording from right now. Although not this section we're in Esquimalt, but over in James Bay, a whole section of that area of town used to be a bay. Like James Bay is
from a bay
was a bay, and now it's a neighborhood because they filled it in with. And I think. Do you suppose the people are upset? It's like, dude, we bought a home on James Bay so many generations ago because it was like a beachfront property, and then they just like moved the beach further out. Yeah, except that I think, like, during that era, the bay was pretty gross. And it's still, like, the inner harbor is still, if you go down there, I mean, it's very pretty on the surface, but if you look under the water a little bit and just kind of look in the water, it's kind of,
Now, here's the thing. As a biologist, a healthy ecology, especially for marine ecology, doesn't always look amazing. It's not all Great Barrier Reef down there for determining health. Sometimes like a muggy, like almost anoxic sort of like view underneath there is actually very healthy indeed.
Okay.
That said, I cannot speak personally as to the state of the health of the inner harbor. I have not read any studies on it.
Okay.
Nor have I actually gone scuba diving anywhere down there to give it a personal check.
Well, another fun thing about Victoria ecology is we have every couple of years. We have this very stinky bloom. I'm not sure if it's seaweed or algae or whatever.
Probably algae. They're known for creating quite a stink.
Yeah, on the south edge of the city, Oak Bay, like Dallas Road and downtown and stuff like that. And I think on the east side of the city too, where there's Cordova Bay, Cadbro Bay, Oak Bay. Well, I said Oak Bay. They get these like washed up like seaweed. And, for one thing, we dump our sewage in directly.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, how far away is that from the open sewage like raw sewage we dump in there?
But I believe I remember reading at the time, like, this, it came, one year it was particularly bad, and they were like, they were asking, is this sewage? And they figure it wasn't. Like, the scientists are saying, no, it's far enough out that, our sewage is probably doing some horrible damage, but it's not near where we are.
It is horrible, but it's not our sewage-related horrible.
But yeah, there's like, I don't know I think it was some kind of seaweed and algae and stuff, but it washes up on the beach and it just creates this horrible smell, like all over anywhere you're near the water. And of course that's not, because those are valuable properties and people are like...
Rich people say, oh, how dare they?
Yeah.
This is horrible.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like, I'm pro-truth in that I believe the truth is always better. However... sometimes the well-placed lie can help things out. So next time the huge stink goes around, just make sure to spread some lying leaflets about how it's caused by them sucking up the nutrients from the raw sewage that gets pumped into the strait.
Yeah.
And that if you were to stop the raw sewage being pumped into there, then the stuff that washes up on shore won't stink so bad because it won't be from, things that came from the human body and then just rotted. In which case, honestly, getting a chance to fix up our raw sewage issue here is so slow. I mean, I think, was it in the last year we've lost half of the people on it simply because of the amount of counselors and whatnot just dragging their feet, doing nothing.
Yeah.
It is a sad, sad thing. And everyone's, oh yeah, we'll definitely do more to see what, needs to get done. It's like, no, you're just shoveling the same raw sewage that you have been for years. This one just happens to be a verbal sewage. Hooray.
Yeah. Well, and like I'm saying about big projects, sometimes they take a lot of time and a lot of consultation, so you do have to be patient. But, I mean, it's kind of,
Now, here's the thing, though. I believe any time you treat sewage is a lot better than pumping out raw sewage into a place.
Okay. So even if we had a temporary something?
Even a temporary thing. Yeah, I don't care how badly it runs, sort of thing. It's still better than pumping raw sewage into the waters.
Yeah, and you'd take it in any municipality at this point because you live in Esquimalt.
Yeah, I was happy with it being down at the one end of Esquimalt. It's got to go somewhere, and I'm tired of all this NIMBY, not in my backyard sort of attitudes.
You'll take it in your backyard.
Especially if it means I could get a job, making sure everything's running properly. I mean, the economy ain't going better as at the rate everyone said it would. I mean,
that's true. You probably could work in a sewage plant, couldn't you? You would have the qualifications.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, right now, I could. That said, sometimes when I get home, go to pick up my daughter from daycare, some of the other kids say I smell funny.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine how funny I'd wind up smelling if I worked at the sewage treatment plant?
Yeah.
I just have to get, small pebbles, just to throw them at the window. Just send Zoe out so I don't offend everyone else. Because, I don't want to be seen by the kids as, oh, geez, that dad always smells like someone didn't flush the toilet. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because everyone flushed the toilet and I had to deal with it. So as bad as, that's the sort of thing where you wind up, just getting perfume or cologne, in your car, and anytime you go anywhere, you just spray yourself with it.
Do you remember the Red Green show where they had this sewage guy?
Oh, yes.
And he was the richest guy in town.
Well, yeah, it's a sewage sanitation sucker.
Yeah, sewage and septic sucker. Yes. Sucking services.
Yes. I loved the line, but I could never get it right.
I can't remember his name either, the character's name.
It's always in the back of my head. I have his mental image there, but I can't get his name.
That's another thing to Google.
That's okay. I had a chance to look up a little bit more Red Green, and fine by me.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Okay. But yeah. I mean, he made decent money because he another comedian once stated, you can buy a plunger for $10. These people obviously do not know the concept of supply and demand. They could charge $500 for a plunger. Because when a person goes to buy a plunger, it's not because oh, hey, we're short on basic bathroom supplies. They're buying a plunger because they need a plunger right now.
Okay.
And so his line is $500 for a plunger. There is no way I'm sticking my hand in that toilet. Can I write you a check? So, really, yeah, you can basically charge a very handsome price for dealing with that stuff because people really do not want to have to deal with that stuff themselves.
Well, I mean, I guess plungers are especially a good example because, there's something you really don't want to deal with.
And it's something everyone can understand. There's likely been a point in everybody's life where they've needed a plunger. And it was never a sweet-smelling roses scenario.
Yeah, but I wonder if you can't just make that same, a similar argument, almost anything that somebody requires in the moment, right now.
It doesn't work with food. I mean, McDonald's is not going to be able to charge $50 for their burgers.
Yeah, stuff that you consume every day doesn't work. But anything that's a one-time, I need this.
When my car breaks down, I will shovel out, I have shoveled out into the thousands to make sure it's running properly. Because without my car, it's like me being without my legs. I feel just so hampered and so immobile from it. They've got me over a barrel, and I'm not in a position to haggle. So yeah. When the emergency happens, they've got you. Now here's the thing: if you happen to be part of like the Esquimalt, higher ups, and you're the wheelers and dealers, you get the sewage treatment plant in there, and then you demand more money from the rest of the various municipalities, or you'll stop production.
Yeah,
it's called ransom.
Hold the rest of the area.
I guess maybe I am in violation of contract and legal terms, but that's going to take over a year before that gets settled in the courts. So who wants to live in a Esquimalt now, and who wants to live in we have no sewage treatment plants? Yeah. Done properly, you can, violate some contract and write your own ticket. You could be the evil mad genius that holds the city for ransom.
Somehow I don't think that would work in
real life. You never see that in the comics, though. I mean, there's always, I'm going to rob a bank of $1 million. No one says, I have control of the sewage treatment plant. Give me $1 million, or I push the big red button that stops everything. And then, wreck everything so nothing gets started up again for months.
I think I remember...
maybe a Spider-Man villain. Spider-Man has to go through some pretty bad stuff.
There's a Jay and Silent Bob episode where, there's... but I think I remember... Oh, well, it's probably a worthless endeavor trying to remember all the instances where sewage has been a plot point in a TV show. I'm sure it happens, though. Probably
the Toxic Avenger more often than most.
Toxic Avenger, yeah.
Otherwise, though, it's a very solid plan. Because there's, how many... Well, solid waste plan, but there's very few cities that have, we'll just switch on our emergency backup waste, processor.
Yeah.
So, you've really got a monopoly on that end of things.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's my evil mad plot for the week.
Sure. Can we talk about what games we've been playing?
What have you been up to this week, Josh?
Okay, I played a little bit more Minecraft, not surprisingly. Not much more to report there, though. What I did do, though, was I finally finished a railroad track all the way. Do you remember how, I was building a huge,
infrastructure system going on there?
Tunnel through the Nether? I've connected 20 kilometers of 20 kilometers in the main world. I think it's probably about, what is that, 4
And is it powered track, so all you have to do is hop in and you're good to go?
Yep, I have it all powered.
Dig it.
And then I have basically 4 stops along the way, so that because I keep running into pigmen on the tracks and they bounce the carts back, and then I have to chase them, and it's a real pain. So I sort of split it up into 4 sections.
So you didn't take my advice of trying to make it like a self-contained sort of thing with just obsidian and maybe some windows?
Well, I didn't use obsidian, but I haven't contained the entire thing yet.
That's why you keep getting pigmen on the track.
Well, yeah.
By the way, if you're part of Mojang and you're thinking about what am I going to do next, maybe upgrade. Maybe it's not just like a mine track. Maybe you put on a little locomotive. Maybe you get yourself like a cow catcher at the front that knocks everything offside.
Actually, I would love that. Yes.
There you go.
That would be a very fantastic
There's
thing
the 1.8.8 big thing.
The zombie pig catcher.
It just knocks anything off to the side. You have the red whiz. This is your railroad track, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would work in the overworld, too, in case you have to drive through, a field of cows or something, too.
Or just, anywhere where you have, I still be a little wary of trying it if you see, a creeper on the track, but if you got enough speed, I think you can get out of the way in time.
Yeah, I think, that'd be kind of fun. That'd be a little game unto itself.
Yeah, in that case, you just have, a whole bunch of, darkened areas that spawn monsters and just have them go on the track, and you just have a high-powered speed track, and you just keep knocking them around. So it's one combination of bumper car, one combination roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I finished, now I have a railroad track that goes all the way from my, center main base all the way out to the mesa where I can get hardened clay. And I have large biomes, so it's this giant, just never-ending mesas.
I do like the giant biomes in general principle because you're in a desert, it feels like a desert. You're in a jungle, it feels like a jungle. As opposed to I just skip by this jungle, or just, I can see the other side of this desert from here.
It's funny because I have, a couple of times I've been exploring the mesa or whatever, or actually in the nearby desert, and I've actually put down a bed and slept in the bed, and that was my spawn point, and left it there, and in the middle of the desert as I'm crossing, right?
Oh.
And then I travel along, and then accidentally for whatever reason I die, stupidly, I probably fall in lava or whatever.
Oh, harsh.
And then I spawn back at the bed with no gear or nothing, nothing, and I will starve to death before I can run in any direction to anything useful.
So you don't set up secure posts?
Nah, I mean, if I'm going to be in the area a lot, I will. But this is just exploration. It's just trying to map the area and just see.
But that's one of the things
there.
I've been considering about Minecraft. It's okay, I got the Mistcraft stuff. I'm gonna pop into Dimension 2 over here, and so it's okay, I want to have a food supply. I gotta have a solid base. Gotta have some basic building supplies.
Idea.
Get myself, I got definitely a bed. Make sure there's something set up for maybe a small airship to scout the area around. Heck, if I can get the blaze rods properly, get some alchemy stuff. So I'm popping into a strange dimension. Am I getting poisoned? Maybe do a counter potion to pop on that one. Because I've explored some randomly generated worlds where it's just just existing, just breathing the air is poisonous, and so it's well, that's the thing is sometimes you take damage from being under the sky, so you're underground, you're okay. Sometimes the rain is acid, sometimes the air is poisonous, and you can never really tell which one's which until you start settling things out. But while you're trying to put a roof over your head, you're dying of poison or whatever it is. So it's I think it works, I guess, but I don't know. So some potions to counteract those sorts of effects might not be a bad idea.
Yep, that's good. Doesn't milk? Well, I don't know if poison gives you the same effect, but milk gets rid of poison if you've been poisoned by a spider, for example.
Yes, and I think it should work on most stuff, but most of the things they'll re-poison you every 3 seconds.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
It's
you can't just be drinking milk constantly.
Well, heck, maybe I just have some sort of milk hat.
Or just bring a cow with you, I guess.
But then the cow's getting poisoned too. The cow drops over dead. And
you can't feed the cow milk.
No.
Although that'd be a good addition to the game.
Well, I could see maybe getting calves to grow up quicker by feeding them milk, but okay.
Would a cow drink, would a cow enjoy its own milk?
Should. Their milk is delicious.
Yeah.
Proportionately lower in fat than most creatures of their size. You go to some of those elephant seals, their milk is 25% fat. You think the 2% milk is grody fat. No, try 25%. It's basically just rendered fat inside milk, and then just stir that together and then chug some of that. But so
I don't know why we don't farm elephant seals.
Because I don't think they're in any of the major mods for that sort of stuff, or real life. Also, they tend to be very angry creatures in real life. Not well suited to domestication. Although maybe merfolk could do that as a thing.
So I played Minecraft. I watched some stuff. It was the season finale for Community.
Season or series finale?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess
potentially both.
That's the thing at issue is we don't really know what's going to happen. It doesn't sound too promising for another season to happen, because this was season 6 of the show.
And it'd be canceled how many times?
Well, it's technically been canceled once, but the showrunner was fired at one point and then rehired. So it was kind of up in the air at several points during its history. But it was canceled by NBC, picked up by Yahoo on the internet, which was kind of cool.
Yay.
Yahoo Screen.
Thank you, Yahoo.
Yeah, it was good. And Yahoo was saying they wanted to get they wanted another season. Yahoo wants another season 7 and so on, maybe even more. And Yahoo also wants a movie featuring the same characters.
I could see a movie thing being a good idea.
Because, ever since, I don't know when I think early in this show, they started a hashtag. One of the characters says 6 seasons in a movie, 6 seasons in a movie, and that became a Twitter hashtag. So
they got 7 seasons.
So the fans are kind of they got rallied behind that, and so we've had our 6 seasons, And so that's why this finale felt like a real finale, like, because it's probably going to be. But as far as like series finales go, I think this one was probably one of my favorite. Like, oftentimes people kind of complain about, Seinfeld, like, oh, they go to jail and
30 seconds of blackness just before, like, the FBI.
The Sopranos.
FBI, yeah. Whoever winds up, tackling
with
them.
darkness. What else? Lost, I think, had a horrible finale.
To be fair, Lost was like what's going on for most of it, so an ending of a similar sort of style, maybe not that out of place. Was it The Prisoner? Oh god, that one was a really weird one.
Yeah.
That was like British 60s weird. But then again, it was really kind of weird all the way through, so whatever.
I was going to say, this Community finale felt very honest and felt very... because there's a couple of ways to do, like, ooh, you're the viewer, you can make up your own ending to this story. Like, there's a couple ways to do that. If you just, fade to black, like you're saying, it's like, oh, okay, that means that the viewer, you get to decide what happens, or, you get to speculate or whatever. Sure, okay, that's fine. But what Community did was actually most of the episode was just, like, sort of peeks at potential futures. Like, we could end it this way, or it could continue this way, or, like, we could have these characters, or these characters could go away, we could have this happen, sort of. So there's all these, like, speculations. So it isn't just, invent your own ending. It's almost like pick your ending from these, series, from these ones.
Oh, what did you think about the ending for Corner Gas?
Oh, I don't think I remember. Didn't they do a movie?
Well, they did recently do a movie, but they also had like the series ending sort of thing where like they're all afraid Brent is going to wind up, he's doing comedy in another town doing some stand-up stuff, and they're worried he'll wind up getting good and moving away. Which is an interesting play on the concept, because the whole premise started like Brent saying to himself, what would I do if I wasn't doing comedy? And his answer was probably pumping gas back home. Mm-hmm. And so that was his premise. It's like, I'm pumping gas back home. So the concept of him like starting up a comedy routine was like a potentially legitimate fear of him becoming the comedian who winds up producing the series that they're actually all... A bit of a head trip. Yeah. But in the end, he says, no, he just wanted to give it a try, and that's what you have to do in a small town. Who knows what happens next week? Maybe someone tries this stunt, someone does this crazy thing. Yeah. But when you're in a small town, you have to do that, otherwise you'll get bored out of your mind. And that explains why they did all these crazy things for so many seasons, and it says we're going to effectively keep doing it, because in a small town, you have to keep things entertained.
Well, okay, I'm not sure if I remember that, but is the implication... that basically things continue as they were?
They will always be doing their wacky, crazy antics, because in a small town, you have to.
It's weird. Like, I don't know why I prefer that kind of ending, and maybe it's just a phase I'm in, but I like, for a TV show, I like to imagine that when, our time with it ends, like, okay, we've made enough series of it, and, okay, you viewers... get out of here, like you're
getting a little tired of the premise too. We see now the ratings are starting to dip, or whatever.
But I do like to imagine that, the show just, the characters just continue living pretty much as they were.
Well, I liked the ending for Corner Gas, because it was basically a premise, like defined and stated. It's like everything you've watched, it is this. This is what it was all about the entire time. So just in case, you were watching it and you were entertained, but this is the philosophy and reasoning behind it. Yeah. This is why it had to be as it was and will continue to be.
Yeah, and it's nothing too complicated. It's usually something fairly simple, and usually...
Small towns are kind of boring. You have to do something to entertain yourself. Try something different. Yeah. Because you don't want to be stuck in the routine that you just like... nothing ever changes. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm pumping gas for the rest of my life. What am I doing? It's like, no. I'm going to try some stand-up comedy. See if I can make people laugh. Cool. You got to try that. It's the essence of life. And that's like, oh boy, you that was a thesis of your entire series condensed down into one final end cap episode. And I dig it.
I might have to find that. I think I might have it on I might have purchased it on iTunes, so I'll have to go dig it out. It might be backed up on a CD somewhere. Back when I was still using CDs to back things up.
You could probably find that ultimate scene for the final episode as to how it goes.
Oh, it could be on YouTube. Yeah,
it's probably on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was just a nice little monologue by Brent about how it goes. And I found that to be a very excellent ending. Perhaps one of the better ones in my memory.
Okay.
Although I gotta say, Due South was pretty good. Although it had 5 seasons, but got canceled 7 times.
Did it?
Is that how it goes?
I don't remember.
It got canceled a whole lot for a series that made 5 seasons.
Yeah.
But their ending was like, finally the reason why he's there is, it's done. This portion of Benjamin Fraser's life is finally complete, and he's reached, the conclusion of the overarching story.
What was he trying to avenge his father or discover his father's
just to bring
murder
his father's killers to justice.
Okay.
It was never about vengeance. It was about justice because he is a Mountie.
Right. Yeah.
Like almost like that's like a superhuman like thing. Is it's not it's like the Green Lantern Corps. It's like the RCMP, the super Mountie senses.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was nice. I mean, it was like, now he goes away to do other things. But it's like, no, that's like that was his chapter of his life. There were chapters before it. Mm-hmm. There are chapters after, but this is what you saw.
Yeah. Well, what does he get a desk job or something? Or
no. He goes back up to the house in the Arctic to rebuild.
Oh, he just retires.
At least take some time off, and build up the house that got destroyed, the house he grew up in. Okay. And his friend Ray joins him. Wait, one or maybe both Rays join him. Ray got replaced because he had to do some undercover sort of stuff, so he got replaced by a person to maintain his identity so that people wouldn't suspect. Right. Fraser suspected and managed to find proof within about 22 minutes. So, yeah. But I think at least one of the Rays went up there to help him out and, just like, hey, like I'm helping you here as you helped me in Chicago. So that was kind of nice, too.
Yeah. And did he ever have a girlfriend
He had many ladies who wanted to be his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That was one of the reoccurring things is there's so many women with the reoccurring sexual tension with him. Uh-huh. But he's such an honest person, and there's reasons why he shouldn't. Like, this woman happens to be his partner's sister. Little close, little unprofessional. This one happens to be his direct superior, and boss, the liaison in Chicago.
Okay.
That's very much tune. This person's like a criminal on the run. She's a criminal. He's a Mountie. How can things possibly work?
Oh, that could work.
So on the other hand, there's the joke that she'll get her man that way. But no, there's a lot of good reasons why you can't go through with this. And so it's like, can you break him? Can you get him to do something he shouldn't? He's the Mountie. Seduce the innocent. Mm-hmm. Which I think played out very well. But yeah, in the end, I think none of the ladies got their man.
All right.
Spoiler alert, I suppose. The series has been done for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I shouldn't have to put a spoiler alert on that one.
Yeah, it's a weird world, because you can get... It's probably on Netflix, I don't know, but...
No, probably. There's a couple stations that still play it routinely on basic cable up here in Canada. I don't know about the U.S.
Yeah, I think it was a popular show in the U.S. too.
It was entertained in the U.S., but the hardcore fan base was definitely up here in Canada.
Okay, yeah.
But yes, I suppose that's one heck of an interesting tangent. Anything else you do this week?
Oh, well, let's see. If I can talk, I also watched a pilot, but it was an old pilot.
So it's a failed pilot.
From the 90s. Yeah, a failed pilot. I just happened to stumble across a pilot for, what was it called? I can't remember what it was called. It was a pilot that Conan O'Brien wrote. Conan O'Brien from Late Night fame, who did
the Conan O'Brien show, as well as one of the head writers for The Simpsons during the good years.
He wrote a pilot with I think there were some other writers, but I didn't know their names. But
Conan was there, so it's there's your line of connection.
And also, Adam West starred in it, and Adam West was playing This is just one pilot episode that never got picked up, but it ended up on YouTube. I'll put a link to it because I can't.
Trust me, some of the best failed pilots can be found on YouTube. Look up the 1997, I think, for that one. Attempt to do a Justice League movie or TV series, live action.
Okay. Yeah.
You know Winchester from MASH?
Yeah.
He plays the Martian Manhunter.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's worth it just to see him in the green makeup.
Yeah, I'll find that one too. I'll put a link in the show notes.
That said, footnotes, there's a reason why it didn't get picked up.
Yeah.
Take it from that, I
was going to say about this Adam West show, he plays an actor. He's an out-of-work actor who just sort of hangs around with the police and just sort of, he kind of helps them, but not really. he bumbles
thinks he's
into
something. He's trying.
He's saying all the wrong, like he's talking like he's an expert, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. But at the end of the thing, he just ends up being right for random reasons, right?
It's like how when you get like a young kid to count something and their numbers don't match any actual sequence, but their final number is the right number, and it's like, well, how can you really like you got it technically right, but the process was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Adam West. So he has this this very dry delivery, I guess is what you'd call it. Is very
well, you got to sound like an expert to make it sound like you know what you're doing. So you can't just be like a crazy person just rambling. Otherwise, you're like a street corner, nutso.
Yeah, and he sounds very authoritative. Yeah, and like that, like basically similar to how Batman sounds. Like,
well, to make Batman sound serious, you have to have some serious acting chops.
Yeah.
Like let's face it, the Batman Adam West world was just like, it was insane. Like to degrees that still to this day boggle my brain. But he managed to make his stuff sound serious and weighty, despite whatever crazy idea the villain of the week had.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking, like, I think Batman, or Adam West, I think the problem with this particular pilot was I don't think it had like real punchlines in it. It had obvious things where he was obviously wrong in sort of a comical way, but nobody points it out. Like it's just nobody comments on it. It's just he just says it. He says a wrong thing, and yes, that's funny, and you can laugh at that, but also I think maybe TV needs a little bit more than that. It needs another character maybe to highlight it or point it out.
A foil.
Contrast,
to work in,
maybe. Yeah, and I don't like. I was thinking Robin, but Robin doesn't work because Robin is always very yes Batman. Like
he was. Let's face it, he was a bit of a yes man.
He's always saying yes Batman. You're so smart, Batman.
Golly, how did you know how to prevent us from getting our holes punched in the what's the name of the thing they do for like those player pianos? Those hole punch lines they got there.
Punch card.
Yeah. How do you make sure we weren't going to get our holes punched in the punch card thing? Easy. I made sure to play, sing a song that would override its typesetting, and thus I only played notes that would go between our body forms. Holy perfect pitch, Batman. Indeed, Robin. Yeah. It was so ridiculous, but it's like he delivered it in a way that sounded like it would, in his crazy reality, actually make sense. And then Robin was like, "Yeah, you're awesome."
Yeah. Although I suppose, now that I think about it, that sort of accentuation by Robin, it can serve that purpose because it's like an over the top, like that's brilliant, like that's so great, and then sort of front loading that, like look at this ridiculous thing that Batman just said.
That's implausibly brilliant, Batman.
Yeah. So
boy, if he just slipped that adjective in even once, that would have been amazing. That's implausibly brilliant.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back and watch some more Batman.
I've got it every Saturday night with my basic cable package.
Yes.
Super Sci-Fi Saturday night on MeTV.
I think that's about all I did for consuming of simulations and various video games and TV shows. And that was my week, basically.
But at least you're able to analyze and figure out why this failed pilot likely failed.
I'm thinking, who knows? In some ways it's just the, roll of the dice kind of, because those are, like Conan is a talented writer and Adam West is a talented actor. It could have easily been just picked up if some studio executive
let's face it,
had
Fox
liked it.
has dropped a lot of good programs over the years. A few, just off the top of my head, there was that one scene from when they picked up Family Guy again. It's like, oh, good news, like Fox has the option of picking us back up again. It's like, really? It's like, yeah, only if, and then they go through a long, it almost seems like an overly long gag, but it's the actual list of all the shows that were in the time slot that wound up failing.
Yeah.
All of them, failed, and they're giving us another shot. It's like, oh, how are we ever going to have a chance at that? And there were some very good shows on there, and it's like Fox has dropped so many good shows, they could be dominating cable television. But there's someone in their higher up hierarchy that just seems to be like the idiot who shoots himself in the foot with a BB gun every time you give him the darn rifle. And it's just like, dude, you guys could have had it all. You guys could have owned the decade again. and then you flubbed it, and you flubbed it, and you flubbed it. It's like, what's going on? But yes, long story short, you got to play forensics expert for like a post-mortem pilot.
Sure, yeah. And listeners, you can too.
Anytime. Just find, I mean, heck, you could probably do like a Wikipedia search for, like, failed TV pilots of the 90s and go for that. And I've seen some good stuff. I've seen some stuff that, was a lot smarter than some of the stuff I've seen make it on TV and get a second season. I'm not going to name any names. I'm sure people worked hard on that stuff, but it was horrible, and I kind of hope they feel bad. But I won't name names. I'm not going to shame them. I'm just kind of hoping they are ashamed.
All right. Can we talk about, have you done any simulations or?
Oh, well, I just played, my video games a little bit. Nothing too major here and there. But the big thing I did this week was watch a lot of movies. Cool. I watched 3 movies this week. The first one is I did some checkup. It's like, oh my goodness, like Avengers 2, Age of Ultron is going to leave the theaters as of this Thursday. So I was like, oh, I better watch it because it's one of the movies you want to catch in the theater, right? I loved it. It was awesome. I loved the romance, because when you've got the romance between the two characters there, as they had with Banner and the Black Widow, it's like, well, I can kind of feel like they just kind of came up out of nowhere. Like, why are they suddenly, like, all, doughy-eyed for each other? And it feels a little tacked on. This felt very natural.
Oh, good.
The fact that, the Black Widow is in a very difficult line of work where she's not going to encounter too many good people, and Banner's a good person.
Okay.
The Hulk is not a good guy in most senses, but like Banner is, and so she meets this guy who's genuinely a nice guy. So it's I can see why she kind of goes to him. It's like, I'd be kind of stupid not to try and be sweet on this guy.
Okay. Well, because I have I go back and forth on romance in movies because sometimes I think, oh well, that's not realistic that they would fall in love, but other times it's like, well.
Well, the quality of the actors, it really did feel natural. It felt like it was something that just grew despite, like they didn't have plans of falling in love. But, all of a sudden she realizes he's a kind of a good guy, and he realizes she gets me and she's not afraid of me. And let's face it, when you're Bruce Banner, finding someone who's not afraid of you, that is the first of a huge hurdle to get over.
Okay, well, yeah, because my feelings on romance is that... men are men and women are women, and sometimes you just happen to fancy someone who is,
the heart wants what it wants.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot, just because most people are good people, and as long as
she's like a trained from young age assassin. So
and even if they're not, I mean, people fall for the wrong person all the time. So
falling for the bad girl is a very basic
the
trope.
Bad girl, the bad boy, either way. Yeah. So people like romance just happens between just random people.
Well, there is an argument that the more circles of life you have in common, the more likely you are to fall for that person.
Okay.
So if you only meet somebody for, say, 5 minutes once a week, chances of you two falling head over heels for, real and not just oh, dude, I gotta get with that, it's a very low chance. But if you're constantly around somebody and you get a chance to really know them, then, that really helps, whether or not it's going to happen. If all conditions will, be favorable, then, you two are going to wind up, falling head over heels because you're around to learn who that person is.
Well,
mind you, hate also works the same way. If you meet a person for 5 minutes once a week, chances are you're not really going to hate them. You might be annoyed by them, but until you spend the time to get to know them, you're not going to really hate them.
Yeah, well, I make it a personal philosophy, or maybe it's just my temperament, but not to people. I do get annoyed by people, obviously.
Can you imagine having to be around that person you get annoyed with for 6 hours? We'll say 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Well, but I'm saying, I make it a point to drop that annoyance and say, well, and try and give them the benefit of the doubt, or maybe they were having a bad day, or maybe they just didn't know what they were saying at the moment, or something.
I find you philosophically opposed to everything I hold dear.
Because it is very rare that you'll interact on a daily basis with somebody that every time they come at you with something negative, or I mean it can happen, but I think it's pretty rare that someone has
Paula Abdul did once sing, opposites attract.
Okay.
So there's something to be said about that.
Right.
That said, though, I mean, if that another person comes at you and everything that they prize is something you don't like everything that they like on TV is a program you despise because it's, you know, like really not doing anything. It's not really a show. It's we'll go with reality TV. I don't like reality TV. So a person who's always, you know, like extolling it. Oh my goodness, I can't believe what happened on Toddlers and Tiaras. It's like I'm not going to be big on that. I'm not going to be seeing that in a very positive light because I don't believe that to be a very positive program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's valid. If they want to like it, they can like it. But I'm not going to like become like, oh, I'm really going to give it a try because you said, you know, so many good things about it. It's like, no, I oppose so many principles in that.
I guess I might be a little bit like that when it comes to religion. Like if people talk about, oh, you know, if they talk about their faith and sort of,
or how every time you do something good, they they describe it to like the deity of their choice. It's like, no, where's my credit here? Where's my? I worked hard on that. I didn't see it, you know, and also, you know, done by, you know, like. You know, Jesus the Redeemer here. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, but that's probably partly my failing because that's not a good way to judge people necessarily. But yeah,
you know, so yeah, like love and hate work on the same sort of thing. Like the more often you spend the time with them, the more it's going to wind up showing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in which case, you know, like I can see why the two people, as they come, you know, close together, you know, they wind up falling for each other.
Okay.
That said, it's also interesting because it sets up for a two-person love triangle. Because she's digging Banner, but she really doesn't, you know, like go nuts for the Hulk. She's not antagonistic towards him. I mean, you don't like fire a gun off, you know, like towards the Hulk's temple or anything like that, because you know you're not going to hurt him. You know, like all you're going to do is like cheese him off directed at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, she digs Banner, not the Hulk. So it is a bit of a love triangle thing with only two people. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that works out kind of.
Did they call that out?
No, but it was pretty apparent, you know, that she likes Banner.
So, like, can you spoil it? Like, do they get together?
Well, I suppose you're going to have to know this for like the next phase of stuff. No. The Hulk winds up using some of Tony Stark's stealth technology, and you know hops in like a fighter plane and leaves the scene to points unknown. Banner has some very serious concerns about getting into a relationship with anyone. Because, well, one, he can't physically consummate without losing himself to the Hulk. That was shown in the other movies. Yeah. The heartbeat gets too much, too emotional. Oh, he hulks out. Two, he doesn't think very highly of the Hulk. Like, admittedly, anybody in a relationship with Bruce Banner is in a relationship with an abusive, partner.
Yeah.
The Hulk is very prone to smacking you because, you used the last of the milk for your cereal, I Hulk out. And, you know, sort of craziness and all that. And so, like, Banner, being a decent guy, you know, figures you don't deserve to be in an abusive relationship, and unfortunately I can't be in anything but that because of who I am. Also harkens back to the fact that his dad, you know, was an abusive father, and wound up killing the mom.
Yeah.
So for those who know the backstory of the Hulk, you can see a person trying to break the cycle. And that, I found, I don't know if that was really the intent, but how I read the scenes for them, I really saw, you know, Banner as like, I can't do this, I can't become my father that way. So I was like, oh, very good. It didn't have to be stated. For those who were just watching the movie and didn't know the back history, it played out normally. But for those who knew the back history of Banner, it's like, I can see the reasons behind it. It's very authentic. I can dig it.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Do they, like, you know, when we talk about romance, like, do they have a, I don't know, candlelit dinner or a...
They share martinis.
Kiss or
there's a little smooching going on.
A little smooch, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, they share martinis during one of Tony Stark's parties.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of plays, and like he comes up and he's like, oh, what's a beautiful girl doing, like you doing in a place like this? And she's, I met a man, and all that. And then it goes in and they're talking about their relationship, and from a third person perspective. Very good wordplay. Good Joss Whedon writing.
Oh yeah,
they sound like characters.
They sound like Buffy characters.
Well, they're not using like the likes and all that because Bruce Banner's got to sound like a smart person, and the Widow's got to sound like like a trained killer sort of thing. But they do sound very natural. Like this is something a person would say. So that's one of Joss Whedon's biggest draws is that his people sound like people.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
that's it. That was also one of the reasons I really dug Ultron as a villain. Mm-hmm. He had a character and a personality. When something happens, to his two minions, Quicksilver and and the Scarlet Witch, it's like, oh no, don't, like, and he was like, oh no, like are you hurt? Like, what's going on? Like don't run away from me. It's like, I'm, like he didn't like, I'm a robot, I don't care at all, I'm just using you. No, it didn't feel like that. He felt like a person as well. So I felt a little sympathy for him. Okay. Not enough to like not try and stop him.
So if you were in the Marvel Universe, you would fight somehow against
I would fight him, but only after an attempt to talk him into reason.
Okay.
Because he indicated enough personality, enough like intelligence. It's like, well, like maybe we can like correct things, and maybe we can come to. Like for him, like sort of thing is like, I'll make you a deal. You sit down here, you stop what you're doing, and talk with me. And if I can convince you to stop doing your thing, then hey, I win. If I cannot convince you to stop doing your thing, I'm bowing out. Because you got to give him some incentive to sit down and talk things out, right? You can't just say, sit down and talk with me, and if I can't convince you, then I guess we're going to do what we're going to do anyway.
Yeah, well, and he's so powerful, he would just...
I would probably get torqued in about a fraction of a second, I'm willing to bet.
I mean, even if we gave you some kind of mutant powers, you'd still... Yeah.
Heck, you can give me like some Hulkbuster armor, I probably wouldn't last very long.
Yeah. But well, how come? So, if that's the case, though, how come some one of the smarter heroes doesn't try and do that, or is there nobody?
Because the heroes are flawed heroes.
Yeah.
Tony doesn't like the concept of what's going on, and he feels at fault for it. So his solution is Tony Stark's solution. I will blast it with like my lasers. Mm-hmm. No one else is really that much of a cerebral thing. I mean, you can argue Banner, but.
Well, don't the X-Men exist in this universe?
No, sadly, because of how the Marvel rights go, you do not actually have mutants.
Okay, so
you can have the Inhumans, which are like if you're those of you who have been watching the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will know that the Inhumans are the creation of the Kree as biological weapons, and this was like a very controversial thing for the Kree, and so they've shut down the program. Like, we're not doing this anymore. But they intend to clean up their mess. So they're going to say, oh, hey, you guys are still like manifesting like these horrible destructive powers. Our bad. We'll just wipe you off of the planet, and everyone else can go living normally. I guess I can kind of see their point. It's like, well, we made a mistake. We should probably clean things up. It beats like, oh, geez, I guess we dropped like a horrible set of like nuclear weapons capable of destroying your planet. But we're not going to pick anything up. We're just going to leave it be and go elsewhere now. So at least they're trying. I mean, it's like, cultural genocide, but they're trying to clean up what they see as their mess.
Does Spider-Man exist in this universe?
Not yet, but he will.
He will, okay. Because I could imagine him talking he might just annoy Ultron, but I can imagine him, at least attempting to make the persuasive case.
Definitely. That's the thing. I remember actually through the Scans Daily seeing an old crossover, Spider-Man and the X-Men. Sort of thing, and there's a guy who blames Professor Xavier for the death of his son, and Spider-Man tries to talk him out of the whole thing. It's like, did my son deserve to die? Charles Xavier deserves punishment. He's like, listen, killing, the X-Men, killing Xavier, it's not gonna, bring your son back. You're not gonna feel better after this. Trust me, I know, because his defining story is like, I beat the crud out of the guy who killed my uncle. It wasn't make me feel any better.
Yeah.
He does try and talk it down when he thinks like he has a chance. So I think that would be an awesome ability. That said, Spider-Man is technically not a mutant. He is a mutate. The radioactive spider. It's not something he was born with. It's something that happened post-birth. It's not a genetic. It's more of an epigenetic thing.
Yeah.
The same way the Fantastic Four aren't considered mutants, but they're not owned by the Marvel company either. But yeah. The Marvel production company and Sony managed to reach an agreement. Spider-Man will be in, I believe it's the next Captain America movie, and he will be in the third Avengers movie. Hooray!
Okay, cool.
Now, if we can only get them to agree somehow to get Wolverine in there, too.
Yes.
And convince Hugh Jackman to do at least one more or two more movies as Wolverine. He's going to retire himself from the role.
Oh, yeah.
I still think they totally could have had him in the first Captain America. Not as Wolverine, just as one of the Howling Commandos named, James or Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fans who knew what was up would have just lost it. They would have gone howling, Commando themselves as this, I'm up there. James, can you, you're the radio man, can you get us this? And sure thing, bub, And just all he is. He's got the one little cameo scene played by Hugh Jackman, would have just blown nerd minds.
Yeah.
Oh well, what could have been, eh?
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, I liked Ultron sort of thing.
Okay,
I mean, he was a villain and he has to be stopped. I don't think it was James Spader did the voice, but he gave him character, and so he felt like I need to do this, I have to do that, and it's like he's like I need your. What was the name of the vibranium sort of thing? It's like, this costs like $1 billion, worth of vibranium I have here. And it's like, this is worth $1 billion. And, Ultron does this, thing like, oh, okay, make up $1 billion and put it in his, bank account. It's like, now you're worth $1 billion. It's weird. I don't understand finances, but whatever. And he states this, like, finances are so weird to me. And so, Ultron, as I have seen him, is usually just, I am a hate-filled machine. All humans must die. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, no, he feels like kind of like a person. I can see how he would get people on his side without having to resort to mind control.
All right.
So okay. So yeah, I like a villain I can dig, a villain I can groove with. I mean, that's very nice. I can understand a villain just wants to, we're going to invade and, we're going to turn your world into, an outpost colony of apocalypse. Okay, well, that's good enough. That's all you really need for a good fight thing and a bunch of mooks to go in there. It works. Don't get me wrong, it works. But having a villain, I can hey, I could see myself, if he wasn't trying to take over the world and destroy everyone, I could see myself, sitting down and chatting with him.
Right.
I don't know what we'd chat about, but I could see myself doing it and not being opposed to, like sitting at the table with him.
Mm-hmm.
Playing poker or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they sometimes have, it's a comic book trope where they lock, a big bad evil guy, in a cell with somebody who's, relatively nobody or a mundane person, and they're forced to have a conversation. Those are sometimes, I've seen those before. They're kind of interesting.
I do like the situations where, villain and hero get locked together by third, party sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think a good example for anyone who wants to watch it would be Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's a bit where the original, villain, Zuko, gets trapped under, in some crystal caves with, Katara, one of the main characters there. And they've been fighting back and forth, for over a season now. They have every reason to hate each other. Yeah. But they wind up talking, and she winds up feeling sympathy for him. Oh, yeah. She winds up I could potentially, cure that giant scar on your face. Sorry about your horrible childhood. And so, that third-party thing that forces them into talking, well, that works, too. That's basically what a zombie movie's all about. Get a bunch of people who may not like each other and force them into a thing, and either they shoot each other with shotguns or they come to a conclusion and find sympathy with each other. The zombies really don't matter. They're just the force that gets you into the confined location. Put in the high stress and the chance to open up. Whichever one you want to go with, that's up to you. You can either open up or, let loose with a weapon. Take it for yourself. But yeah, so I give that one just full recommendations, provided you're into superhero movies.
I'll watch it at some point.
Even if you're not into superhero movies, I think everything's well done. It's definitely worth a study case to see how things go, how they interplay, how everything goes.
And it's good just for cultural knowledge.
Oh yes, people are making quotes and doing things on that
for cultural learnings of America.
Let's see, the second movie I watched was Kurusu, The Beast of the Amazon, which is an old Universal horror movie.
Okay.
Not that old. I mean, it was in color.
Right.
But I'm still on the fence as to how to consider that movie, because on the one hand, the Beast, that's scaring, the native people of Brazil off of the farmlands and back into their, jungle lifestyle, he's killing people. But he doesn't really make much of an appearance.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like a character plot sort of thing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it was filmed entirely in Brazil, and the native people were played by native people, not white people in makeup. So it's that's actually really progressive. Hooray!
Okay.
But it's like the movie otherwise really wasn't all that good. It had its moments, had some nice stuff.
What did you think of the acting?
God, I hated the male actor sort of thing.
Okay.
He was just such a male machismo, overconfident sort of like. This is the kind of man who smokes a cigarette while going to the doctor for a physical exam.
Okay.
That's how macho he is. His name is Rock. That's macho. The female lead on that sort of thing, she was frightened by everything. She was panicked by everything. But then again, she was like the wide-eyed sort of thing. Like, I once, read a book on the Amazon as a kid. Now I fell in love with it, and I wanted to go experience it. No, it's a horrible place. Get me out of here. Everything's trying to kill me. So that had its moments. But her reasoning was good. I mean, it's like she wanted to. Back in the day, they thought like headhunters to do that head shrinking magic sort of thing, that where you get your shrunken heads. It has to be some sort of magical compound, some like mixture of leaves. Yeah. The answer is mostly like same way, like you shrink leather, boiling in some hot sand to do some weird stuff with it.
Yeah, I've seen like little articles about head shrinking.
But yeah, but back in the day they thought it was like, oh, you must get like some, like some obscure compounds, and she wanted that compound that would, shrink the head, not to actually go about shrinking heads back in the city, because she was a doctor and she wanted to try this compound on like skin tumors. So like, could you shrink the skin cancer to a more manageable rate? Shrink the skin cancer thing down using a dilution that wasn't promote lethal, and then you just like excise that much smaller area on the skin. So it's like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea. The science is incredibly flawed behind it, but the general principle for a soft science horror movie is great. I thoroughly approve. So she had maybe the best reason to go, into this place to explore and find out, what's going on.
Yeah.
She really didn't care why people were going back, why some creature was killing people and scaring them all back into the forest.
Well, did you ever see was it called The Mission with Sean Connery and Jodie Foster?
Is that the one where he's found a potential cure for cancer but doesn't figure out what's going on with it?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it was ants.
I think it was a spider or something.
I think it was ants getting into the sugar.
Yeah. Oh, maybe
I have seen parts of it. I remember my dad watching it, but I had some other stuff I needed to do, so I came in throughout the second half of it, and I really wasn't into it by that point. But I think I have seen enough of it to say, kinda.
I was just reminded that because of the trope.
It is a similar problem.
Going to the Amazon or to discover some kind
similar
of cure.
Plot. I believe the Sean Connery movie was much more entertaining, even though I only saw half of it.
Okay.
A lot of stock. There was more stock footage of generic animals doing stuff in the Amazon and piranhas feeding than there actually was of the Carusu Amazon beast.
Okay. Well,
so
that's interesting because in the 60s, they didn't have the Discovery Channel, and they probably didn't have as many, National Geographic, although they had a few.
They had National Geographic, but they had, you'd have to, go someplace to properly see it, big presentation, thing and all that.
So I imagine, even...
That was how you got a chance to see the Amazon.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of a draw to that sort of
movie. That was one of the big draws for the Creature of the Black Lagoon, was this lush landscape and the lady swimming around in a bikini. Well, I guess, a bikini of their time, which is like a full one-piece by our standards, and a fairly conservative one at that. But I will grant it some part there, but there was a lot of stock footage done in that, and when they put them in front of a green screen for oh no, here come the crocodiles sort of thing, we got to get out of here, and you could tell very much they were in front of effectively a green screen.
Okay.
Green screen technology is very noticeable.
When you say stock footage, though, that's...
stock footage isn't bad in general principle, I'll state out there. However, the quality of the stock footage was much worse than the quality of the rest of the filming thing, so it was really jarring to go we're moving here, then it's grainy with the lines going through of, some crocodiles snapping and going into the water and all that.
Yeah.
So if you have that difference in quality going back and forth throughout the movie, it really does jar you out. And that's I guess I'll call that one a neutral, not a win or a loss. Congratulations, you're progressive in that you actually got native people to play the native people they're supposed to be playing. So hooray!
Okay. Yeah, that's something.
On the other hand, could have been done better. Decent ending. I won't spoil anything, but not the greatest one. Don't be expecting a monster to be plaguing everyone through and picking them off one by one like you're watching the original Predator movie. It's basically just a ploy, and it shows up, disappears, and then you realize it's a guy in a mask sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, okay, gone, done. And then like go on to the other plots going in here, and the romantic subtension, which didn't feel very much. Although the first time he tried to kiss her, she smacked him across the face good. She really... Here's the thing, though. The next time when he tried kissing her, it was when she was like, we gotta get out of here before we're dead, and get our head shrunk ourselves. It's like, oh my goodness, we're gonna die. And then he's like, kissing her. It's like, she's really not in a good mental state to be putting these romantic advances on her. Maybe you should wait until you guys are settled down, get back to the missionary, someplace with a proper safe haven, and then maybe try kindling up some romance. Don't put on the moves there. So I was like, yeah, his machismo kind of poisoned the whole film.
Well, do you remember in Dogma when there's with Jay and Silent Bob, and near the end of the movie, the whole everything is going crazy and there's explosions and stuff, and Jay starts taking off his pants with what's the name? Oh, well, I can't remember. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "You said if the world was about to end, we could do it." So that's just reminded me of that.
Yes, it's kind of a similar mentality. It's like, I don't care that we're in mortal danger. Let's put the romance. Yeah. Jay having much less romance than the character Rock. At least he tried doing a little kiss beforehand. There was that. Let's see here. I watched a Pokemon movie with my daughter. She was talking a lot about Pikachu, so I found something at the local library on that one. It was a Pokemon movie. I mean, what can you say about that?
Okay, so you don't have anything to say about Pokemon?
It wasn't the most intelligent movie, but at least, it was very well animated.
And did it have our main heroes from the cartoon, like Ash?
2 out of 3.
Okay.
Ash and Brock and whatever female accompaniment per that zone that they were supposed to be in at the time.
Okay.
Villain that comes out of nowhere, sort of thing, and everything goes back to normal, status quo restored. They save the day. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
It's a Pokemon movie. My daughter enjoyed it. Especially whenever Pikachu was on. Whenever he wasn't in the scene, she's always like, "Where Pikachu? Where Pikachu?" So maybe I should have just gotten that one episode where they got an entire tribe of Pikachu and just played that for her twice.
And then she'll have enough Pikachu.
She'll have more than enough Pikachu
She'll
to
never need to watch another Pikachu in her life.
That's not how it works with kids. Let's just be frank on that one there, yeah.
True.
But while I was at the library checking out stuff, I'm looking around. Ooh, they got a copy of the Wolverine. Oh, they got a copy of this. I could look at this. I found a movie called Vampire Hunter D, which is an anime, 1985. And it's I've heard of this before. And I'm not considered, the biggest, fan of, the Japanese animation stuff. I do appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So it's if I've heard of this, this must be a seminal work, of its era. Plus, it's 1985. So it's nice to watch a movie from so many years back and see how it goes. I loved it. It wasn't perfect, but I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
They played things slow. They had that synthesizer creepy music, do 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 do, kind of like what you hear from the old Freddy Krueger stuff, or from the dreadful scenes in Ghostbusters, the cartoon stuff.
Mm.
So it really the music struck a chord with me. There was some weirdness in the animation because it's 1985. And they're not drawing the same way. So every once in a while, you're doing a shot of a person and they got this huge forehead. It's you could put 2 more faces upside down on that and it would just completely work. Take a look in the mirror out there, listeners, and just look at yourself and say, okay, yeah, the eyes are about midway through the head. Then you've got your forehead, depending on how high you're, so I got a high, forehead, sort of thing. So I got a decent amount going on there. But you look at these people, it's that is hydrophalically large. And then, it's cuts to, another angle and say, oh, kind of a normal head now. It's what's up with that? So that bit got me, but not enough to really care. The premise was an interesting concept. This far in the future, there's vampires, there's demons, there's mutants, there's monsters, all sorts of things, and humanity's trying to survive amongst all these horrors.
Mm-hmm.
So Pop question for you, Josh. You're out in the woods at night, and you are hunting demons/mutant/monsters. What do you wear for body armor?
Well, like, how rich am I? Can I afford body armor?
You can afford a high-powered machine gun, a horse. Oh, that's a laser thing, like laser machine
gun.
And like an electro whip that doesn't really obey the laws of physics to any real degree.
And I guess I didn't blow all my money on those particular items.
You have a ranch. You've got like some sort of weird, crazy sheep ranch, and enough like guard berries around that. Like you've got electronics to guard that. So you are not like hurting for cash.
All right. And what am I hunting again? Like, do I know what I'm hunting?
Well, it's a bit of a grab mix sort of thing. I mean, like your aim is to kill like demonic dinosaurs, sort of thing.
Well,
so,
if it's like, I guess if it's supernatural stuff, then I probably just want
somewhat towards crosses. The more mundane sort of thing of monsters. Like you're going out killing beasts in the middle of the night.
Okay, so if they're kind of bestial, yeah, I might put on some body armor of some kind. I might buy. I mean, like me, I don't know the first thing about armor, so I guess I would go to a sporting goods store and I don't know, buy motocross gear or something.
Yeah, motocross BMX is a good idea, especially because that stuff will get you the spine protection.
Yeah.
Last thing you want is to have a bruised spine when you fall as you're running from something you just can't handle. Yeah. Turns out the correct answer, according to this movie, is a shoulderless little number with a gratuitous cleavage showing, in a skirt so short it cannot hide your panties.
Well,
or in this case, manties. Depends how you go.
Does she need the mobility, though? Like, is that important?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, if you're running around in the woods at any point in time, you're going to want at least, like pants.
Or with stinging nettles.
Yeah, stinging nettles and all the little underbrush.
That's the last thing you want when you're fighting vampires.
It's the scent of blood to get into the air, right? But yeah, apparently the answer is, some nice little sporty little short, boots, not even like the knee-high stuff, showing a lot of leg, and I am not joking when I say the cut of her skirt was so low, or so high, you cannot help but see panty in every shot.
Yeah, okay.
So that was the correct answer. Apparently, your full body armor and decent, at least one cover protection was the wrong answer. C'est la vie. So that one kind of got me, but I mean, it's that's kind of like an artifact from the 80s style. I mean, you're going out hunting, you have to kind of wear a Sailor Moon outfit, provided you're a lady, and the guys get to wear obscuring clothes and look all cool and badass.
Yeah, well, there's something. I mean, that is part of the aesthetic tradition of cartoons, especially Japanese, but also American for that matter.
I will say it was a little embarrassing to watch. It was probably okay in the day, but we're living in 2015, not 1985.
That's true. But
that's 3 decades difference, and so what was once commonly just accepted is now that's really impractical and kind of cheesy. Could you at least give her some stockings to wear and say they're carbon nanotube reinforced or something like that, so that they actually provide decent armor?
Okay. Well, are we sure, she was definitely human, right? She wasn't a cyborg or anything? She
was pure human.
Okay.
They have cyborg horses in there, but they still, rely on, carts and all that have to be pulled. Not much for motor cars.
Because I've seen other, Japanese animation, cartoons of whatever, and I'm thinking there are examples where the girls actually technically are robots, so they don't need armor because their skin is metal or whatever.
In which case, it just happens to be their clothes that get shredded in every possible opportunity.
Yeah.
Looking at you, cutie, honey. But so those things aside, okay, it was of its era. I won't, hold that against it as just a condemning thing.
Okay.
Once I overlooked that, it was a great thing. The vampires seemed powerful. It's this is a legitimate threat. Oh, except for the titular character D, the vampire hunter.
Mr. D.
Yes. I mean, we watched it just before we did the thing, so I could give a proper note with you for it. Plus, I have a few more days before I got to take it back to the library, so why not share the joy, right? as you mentioned, it didn't feel as though the main character was ever in that much danger.
Yes.
He was just holding. How much are you going to hold back? How much are you going to let loose?
Yeah. The sort of danger, if there was any, was sort of from within, because he had really super vampire powers, but the question was like, how much? Yeah, is he going to let those out? And if he did,
Can he put the genie back in the bottle?
Would he just turn into this like horrible beast that just ate everybody?
He hates the most. There was one real. The gratuitous nudity was always kind of, so she's in a shower, so of course, they're going to do a full body pan shot back and front, because that's very relevant to the plot.
Well,
it's like,
because they wanted to tempt the hero.
Well, that's the thing, is they could have just had like a thing where she, you don't have the camera in the shower, you have the camera outside sort of thing after everything's gone, so she's cleaning up after the whole ordeal, and then he comes in and she bears her soul to them. In which case, her, just wearing the robe sort of thing is a very good way of symbolizing how she's bearing herself to him, not just physically, but emotionally. And so in which case, I did not consider that scene for any gratuity for showing of the flesh. Plus, there's the whole bit about him, he takes a look at her wonderful blank neck as she's, hold me close.
Yeah, he wants to bite her neck because he's a vampire.
In which case, it brings up an interesting thing about the concept of the vampire, needing to feed as being the equivalent of getting horny. And it's like, I hadn't really considered it that way. I mean, I considered the concept of a vampire biting somebody as like an allegory for potentially rape.
Yeah,
and all that sort of thing.
Well, if you'd read the Twilight novels, you would that would be like just par for the course.
Yeah. So one of my biggest hang-ups against reading is like, I don't know if I can slog through that part.
I enjoyed it. I read one of them.
But in this case, for him, it's like she's like offering herself to him. Really, initially in the first meeting, she basically says, "I don't have much money, but I can give you meals and you can have your way," because she wants to make sure she goes out on her own terms. She didn't want to, she got bit by the vampire. She did not want to become the bride. She's going to wind up, going out by how she wants to. She wants some say in how her fate is being dealt. I could dig that, sort of thing. But then, in the later scene when she's actually there, it's like, hold me close. I think I love you, sort of thing. It was like an honest, a real sort of thing. And so, like the symbolism of her just wearing the robe and she bearing herself to him, it's like, that is good symbolism to show, like how naked she is before him. It's not just physical, it's actually emotional.
Okay.
So, in which case, I'll let that scene slide. But, like every other boob that pops out is pretty much gratuitous. Oh, except for the three ladies that wound up being snakes, because then they're clearly trying a seduction / Lady of the Lake sort of vibe. And that has a mythological sort of thing. You see it in the classic paintings, sort of thing. So I'll let that go too. But apparently I've been told you got to show at least some skin in the Japanese sort of stuff to get that audience in there to help bolster the numbers. There's a lot of competition on that sort of thing.
Well, not every Japanese animation movie will necessarily have nudity, but a lot do. And
I'll grant this: they didn't have jiggle physics for the ladies, so hooray! And they were fairly realistically proportioned. Hooray! That makes it kind of progressive for its era, which is like in the era we're looking at, it's like that shouldn't have to be considered a wonderful victory and highlight, but it winds up being something that's like, oh boy, at least they weren't as bad as they could have been. Huzzah! One of the things I really did like, though, was all of the villainous characters had redeeming qualities.
All the vampires.
All the named, villains sort of thing had redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
The one, assassin, sent to come and kill, Dee at the very start, he winds up saving the little kid's life. Little kid tries, pulling like, I'll just jump out of nowhere and bop the evil vampire count on the head and maybe that'll win the day. It's pretty much guaranteed to fail. But he's got to save his sister somehow. And nope, the vampires apparently got some sort of force field about him, so he kind of bounces off and falls down, and the bad guy saves him. He didn't have to. There was
one particular bad, the henchman.
The bad henchman sort of thing had he didn't need to save the kid. There was nothing that helped him out by saving it, but he still saved the kid. Why? Look, the kid's innocent. Saves the kid, smiles, and he's like, okay, now I'm going to go up and basically flip off the account for denying me what I think is mine.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. It fails badly for him because he's not the big bad. So anytime you go up against the big bad, you're going to lose. We should mention this is not a kids movie. No. The gore is pretty bad there.
So we've already mentioned the nudity, and there's you've talked about the nudity as a problem. I mean, there's violence is probably a bigger issue, at least in this movie, because there's it's kind of bloody and
kind of graphic sort of thing for the violence too. The evil female in the role there. I mean, she she is doesn't want this peasant girl dirtying the family honor and nobility, and there's a chance she could have said okay, and then I just pop your head off like a dandelion. I could do that sort of thing, because I mean she's a vampire. She's pretty darn potent. She could probably have just popped the head off and just squeezing it like you pop the top of a bottle, of pop, man. It's not that difficult for her. But no, her plan was once you're outside of, my father's domain, he can't force you to marry him. So her plan was I'm not going to kill you. I don't like you, but I'm just going to get you out of here. Mm-hmm. And so it's that's actually quite a nice, reasonable, response. And I dig the fact that you're not just, popping skulls. So hooray! Mm-hmm. The Count was, kind of a bad guy, but his main problem was that he was really bored. He was a very old vampire. They don't have TV, no Netflix, no internet, no radio. He is just so bored.
Yeah, so you sympathize with him for that.
Well, it's partially his own fault. He probably could have, used some, show, hey, here's what we do. Can you guys, come up and show a play once a month? Do some writing, come up with some culture for me to enjoy. Mm-hmm. But no, he decided, well, I guess I'll just take a bride, have some fun, and I guess when I get bored with her, I'll kill her.
Yeah, that was his plan, yeah.
Yeah, and, but he wasn't I'm a hungry vampire. I'm going to turn you all into vampires, too. No, he's hey, I have kind of reasonable demands. I've tried to make sure I'm not bored. I'm going to stir the pot, see what happens, have some fun out of life. Mm-hmm. So he was definitely the bad guy, but it's not I really I despise him. Every time he's on the screen, I want to spit at him. Yeah. I wasn't that full of hate with him. And I gotta say, it's been a long time since I saw a movie where all the villainous characters, all the bad guys, had these redeemable qualities where I could at least like them to some degree.
Okay.
So, hey, hooray. All told, I think it was a great work. I think the nameless minions might have stolen the show for me.
Oh, yeah.
You're going into the vampire's castle sort of thing. You've got this one weird mutant that giggles a lot, and he can fly, and he's got some sort of long claws on his feet sort of thing. So, hey, D is a very powerful person, but he can't fly. So this flying guy isn't as strong as him, but he has a decent tactical advantage, so he actually poses a bit of a threat. Hooray! They got a big giant hulking guy, and he's a huge behemoth of a dude. It's okay, I can dig that. One guy with a hunchback that he squeezes his back, and a bunch of spiders come shooting out, and they wind up impairing their target. It's that. Mm-hmm. These guys had no names to them, but they were very memorable henchmen, and that's I was I need to do this in the campaigns I run. I need my henchmen, even if they have no name, I need them to be somewhat rememberable. I need them to be a little bit unique, even if they have a one-note trick. He's covered in spiders. He throws his spiders on top of you. Ah, you're covered in spiders. There you go. It was very good that way. And yeah, they kind of stole the bits of the scenes that they were in.
Yeah, I like those the monsters. This movie has a lot of imaginative, also imaginary. Because
I don't think there were any two repeating real monsters. Everyone was basically unique.
Well, sometimes they encountered the same monster a couple times.
Yeah, but it was just the one monster. It's not like there was like 3 or 4 different kinds of these flying guys. There was only one flying, laughing guy.
Yeah,
I'll call him Giggles. There's only one Giggles in there. You saw him in a couple scenes, but until he dies, spoiler alert, bad guys die. You know, like he was just him. It's only him for that. So hooray for uniqueness. I might have to hit the I'm pretty sure there's a wiki for it because apparently they've done 26 novels of him in the comics.
So look out for Vampire Hunter D. I'll put a link in the show notes, probably just to the wiki page.
But yeah, there's probably names for him and back histories and all that, but that wasn't necessary. And I really dug the fact there's memorable mooks, which I don't see often. Most of the time I see a memorable mook, it's a themed mook for a Batman villain. This last week I saw Batman fighting Liberace, and the villainous guy is a villainous musician, and his three beautiful assistants are Do, Ray, and Me. Well, so in which case it's their name and it's a bad joke on something related that makes them memorable.
I can actually tell you that it is common movie making wisdom not to overwhelm the viewers with probably that many monsters would probably be more than recommended, because yes, it's fun to see them in the moment, but it's also hard to just remember all of that stuff happening.
Well, most of them would ever need, especially if you're playing a pencil and paper style game. It's just that one scene where they're there and then you wind up killing them. But that was a lieutenant of the big bad.
Yeah.
Let's face it, everyone remembers the one sword guy that Indiana Jones fought and then won by shooting him.
Yeah.
He pulls a gun and shoots him. Yeah. Why is that memorable? Because, it was different. It wasn't just him trying to escape from a bunch of people. It was one guy doing one flashy thing. I'm good with swords. Indiana Jones was gun trumps sword. Bam, let's go. Yeah. So all it needs is something that makes it memorable, even if it's how long did that one scene last? It was maybe a 30-second one for Indiana Jones.
Oh,
guy shows up, does sword thing.
Yeah, swinging with the sword.
Boom, done. Moves on to the next bit. And that's something people still joke and mimic about, and that's so mimetic. It's still a thing in our culture. Mm-hmm. If I learned one important lesson, was that make some memorable mooks. There was a lot of generic mooks that didn't do much. Once you got past that outer gate sort of thing and actually into the castle, there was a whole bunch of Lovecraftian melty monsters.
Yeah.
And so I was now he has to get through a second moat, but this moat is a moat of crazy flesh beast.
Yeah.
So and I said, that's a very interesting thing. I'm going to make a note too. Is just a whole bunch of heck, I'll put a pit. It's not just an empty pit trap. It's just a pit. Full of swarm monsters. Now, beware. Sometime in the future, you might have to try and jump over a pit of flesh-eating beetles.
And I think it might have been. What year was that? 85.
85 was when it was produced.
When was The Return of the Jedi done?
70s. They were all 70s for the original thing.
Actually,
76.
The first Star Wars had I was thinking Jabba's Palace, but also the first Star Wars had the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Oh yeah,
which I think that was relatively new in film because, like I was saying,
many background different creatures.
Yeah,
it's you really get the feel this is an alien spaceport.
Because that sort of scene is not conventionally recommended, but if you do it well, it will blow the minds of your audience because the audience is what? There's that monster, and they just sweep past it, when you put a monster in a movie, you spend all that money on a costume, and you're this is our monster. Look at it, audience.
Well, mind you, don't forget they were working with, I believe it was the Henson Muppet Company for a lot of this stuff, and those guys, they just was okay, you guys want how many monsters? So what have we made up in our spare time? I think we can do that. How many of them want to be people with weird heads? Got you covered. Okay. Any ideas? We can make up a few things. We got a little bit of time before you start filming. You want to do some character sketches and some ideas. We'll see what we can put up together in that time too. But we basically got you covered because that's just how the Henson Muppet guys worked. What are you doing in your spare time? I'm making a new Muppet.
Yeah.
How it goes.
Yeah, so that's always fun when you see a thing like that in a movie, when you see sort of a menagerie of just weird creatures.
And here's
stuff.
the thing, it's actually not, it's easier to do now than it really has been, because what you can do is you can go to places like Dragon Con, Comic Con, and have a thing for we're going to have so many extras, we're going to do a contest, and everyone who meets the qualifications can appear in this, scene as a background thing. You'll be in the credits list. We'll give you the standard, was it for a background person, $40 a day?
I have no idea.
Yeah, provide your own costume. If you get a thumbs up from us, you get to have a spot in the back. We're accepting like X many people. First come, first winner. In which case, if you film it, like we got a stage thing set up in the back, outside of Dragon Con, or we'll go with C2E2 sort of thing, because I have seen some very good stuff there. And then, like any unique costumes going on in there we can do. Maybe if you're, you're in a really good costume, but it's a recognizable one, we'll sneak you into the far back. See if anyone notices that Harley Quinn is in the background of the cantina. Have some fun with it, because they like to have that sort of fun with things, right?
When you said that it was easy nowadays, I actually
it's easier because you have more people doing that, and you have like the convention stuff with such great numbers. You can make it a thing.
Well, where I thought you were going, and you weren't going this way at all, but I think this is a cool idea, is the digital world where like recently they did sort of advances in
CGI
having CGI with all of the soldiers on the battlefield. They're like, we're going to have 10,000
battle droids come up versus the clone armies,
or 10,000 orcs or 10,000 Chinese soldiers on screen at one time, all doing their own little thing, because they give them like little AI instructions and everything like that. And I was thinking, as far as like sort of this diverse cantina scene, you could almost do, if you added a little like variation into like how the characters are generated, you could have sort of monster scenes and just have the computer just sort of give them random traits and stuff. And like
no, here's the thing though, is the biggest part about doing that would be coming up with the concept sketches, in which case you can save a lot of time and possibly a lot of money by having like a thing. It's like, hey, we need so many like things, send in your original creation, we'll buy it off you for $40.
Yeah, you could still do it the old-fashioned way with like having people come up with stuff. Sure.
Yeah. In which case you can save a lot of time. It's like, dude, you want me to come up with 40 different, like unique monster things for the background?
Like, that has to be the most fun. I mean,
it is fun, but it's fun. like is this going to meet the cut? Because if you need 40, you better be doing at least 80.
Yeah.
Assuming half of them get cut, not good enough, or not.
I mean, I know there are definitely artists working in the movie industry right now who love doing this, and will come up with hundreds, and they'll be like, if you give them that
send in your portfolio thing.
Yeah, they'll love it. Yeah.
But that said, let's face it, we are in the era whereby getting enough positive reviews on the internet, enough positive hype from the people, can make or break a movie. If it wasn't for the right, like I think it was 2 or 3 people latching onto the concept, Snakes on a Plane would have come and gone with just a blip. No one would have known it, but then you got people talking about it. It's like, I am sick and tired of these MF snakes on this MF plane, and all that. That wasn't even a scene that was supposed to be in the movie. That's something that I think Jeffrey Rowland from the Overcompensating website came up with, and that got so much popular traction. It was like, we got to refilm this scene. We got to like cut and put this one in here. We got to make this something that, because this is why people are going. They're going to go and they're going to hope to see this line in here. Samuel L. Jackson getting tired about snakes on this plane, and we got to make this happen.
Okay, yeah, so you like the fan interaction, fan contribution.
Well, I always do approve of an inclusive system, so yes.
Okay, I can get on board with that. I like that.
Plus, the more positive will you generate amongst the people who are going to likely wind up being your core audience, the better you're going to get the word out amongst those people to all the corners of the fandom. And the more people, I think, are going to be willing to forgive other mistakes you made. Sure, the other scene kind of played out weird, and it didn't really seem in character for this guy, but they were doing a lot of stuff, and they were really helping, bring other people in, and they were getting ideas from the people in and around them that had ideas to send. Because let's face it, right now, there are a lot of people with a lot of ideas, and if I say call even a percent of those ideas getting made on film, I am grossly overestimating how much gets put onto the celluloid.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just nice to see at least some of them. Hey, I actually made it. Like my idea was put into a movie once. But I do believe you're right on the CGI. Like in my mind, I'm thinking of I've got superhero ideas and I've got notions for stuff I can write, and then I say to myself, why even make it a live action if in my mind it winds up becoming a movie? Why not do the entire thing with a good CGI? From start to finish for the whole thing. Wouldn't it be a little cheaper as opposed to having to have the whole sets explode? Why not just do the whole thing CGI? Why would it have to be live action? So I say to myself, come up with a good reason for that. And honestly, if I'm doing like a cantina scene sort of thing, it might be easier just to do the whole thing CGI. So you're definitely right on that point with how it's easier to do now than ever before. Once you get over the hurdle of coming up with all those different ideas.
Yeah,
that takes time. That
sure.
takes mental effort. Sometimes you got to crowdsource.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's. I guess that winds up being all the stuff we did this weekend, and sinking into like a little bit of a review and what we learned.
Yeah. If our listeners have anything to add, they can email us at thesimulationist@gmail.com. Is where we can.
Like, here's a notion. I do not know what other movies there might be in this Vampire Hunter D video collection stuff. If you know what ones they are and which order they might be best viewed in, let me know. Fire us off a line so as we know where to keep following up, because I like the movie. I would like to see more of it.
Okay. Well,
let me know. Come on, throw me a bone here, people.
Or anything else you want to chat to us about? Anything at all? Send us email. You can comment on the Facebook page that we have, facebook.com/thesimulationist. You can comment on the YouTube channel too, youtube.com/thesimulationist. And you can tweet at me at spaceboot1. That's spaceboot numeral 1.
No underscore, no spaces, all good.
Yeah, and anytime you find this show, like on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever, they have a little place to add a review or something like that. We would super appreciate it if you put some actual words in there. Like the stars, we would love to have as many stars as you feel, but the real human touch is just giving like verbal words.
Recognition, verbal. Like, people see stars and they're like, oh, what do is this good? And they say, oh, no one left any word comments, just stars. Well, that's kind of weird. But if they say, it's like, hey, these guys come up with like 3 great movie ideas every 90 minutes they're on, it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind listening to that. Yeah, that's one of the greatest things about listening to Kevin Smith's podcast is the crazy ideas for movies he comes up with sometimes.
What did we say at the beginning of this episode? It's a manure.
We are a fecund manure for the minds. We hope we wind up laying the groundwork for a lot of fruitful ideas for you.
Mental manure or whatever.
Yes.
What else? Also, and just share us with a friend. If you happen to know somebody who's also into video games and nerdy stuff, we would love to be in their ears also.
Does your DM have a problem with so many generic mooks being thrown at you and them just not really, like, you don't register them, they're just like trash mob sort of thing? You're not seeing any of these lieutenants, that have uniqueness, and yet he still won't watch any of the anime to show it? Maybe link him over to this and say, hey, these guys have some good ideas, and then you just slip that idea into his mind, like some incredible mooks. Don't need to have a name, just some interesting abilities, make them stand out a little bit. Just make it like that, man. Just like those weird, crazy monsters you get in Diablo every once in a while. It's like, oh, hey, this is so-and-so, the Accursed. Just even a little bit like that. Just throw in a quick little template to make it work a little differently for a fight. Changes things up, makes them more memorable. Go for it.
Cool.
So, yeah. Use us to implant the ideas in the minds of other people. Let us be your stealth mental assassins.
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening. Do we have final... I don't know if we have final wrap-up.
Old movies are a little weird because of changes in values and, all the dissonance that happens between, like, the 3 decades sometimes on watching, sometimes even more. Mm-hmm. That said, it's not a bad thing. You can watch the movie twice at the same time, once by looking at it in the perspective you see it now, and once realizing this was a product of its time, and so try and imagine it being its thing for back then. And that way, you get like twice the value out of a movie, and you learn more about the past that way by seeing like if you want to go nuts, try and watch some of those Bugs Bunny cartoons from World War II. You drop an anvil on a Nazi's head, they do not just shake it off and recover. They get hit in the head with an anvil. With all the real world, this is like Bugs Bunny's a cartoon, but these guys get hit pretty hard, and it does not shake off. So you get to see, it's like, wow, this is kind of crazy. But everyone got to fight Nazis in World War II, unless you were the Nazis, in which case you got to fight everyone else. So, but, you can watch that sort of stuff, and it's like, wow, I can't believe, Bugs Bunny's being, like, really kind of gruesome here, but it's like, that's how things were back then. Watch it. Learn. Every movie is not just the movie that you see, it's the movie that it was when it was out. It meant something different to the people then, and you can learn the minds of the people that have long gone by watching that stuff. If you're paying attention just the right way.
Okay, yeah.
It's a hidden cipher. Dig it.
What a thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see you again in 7 days.
Yeah, we'll be back again, and we'll do another gross episodes after this.
Yeah, we'll do at least 2 gross.
At least a couple more,
yes.
Anyways. Or maybe a gross.
A gross? Oh, dude. I don't know if we're going to live that long. I'm thinking 144 to the 144th. Ooh.
I guess, we probably... Well, anyway.
Even times by 1 for us, no. Well, we'll see how long we live. Maybe we all get uploaded to, sentient AI sort of things going on. Who knows? The future.
I've been Josh Treleaven.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Send